All right, Rachel, and we have 18 seconds left as this vote is ongoing, and you're seeing Republicans there at the yeas at 219. And so we'll watch this here for the next few seconds, but again, widely anticipated that this would pass. And so, Rachel, we'll be checking back in with you here in just one moment. I want to bring back in our panel. They are also standing by here. And so, John Katko, that is something that really stands out to Rachel, too, right now, is how these moderate Republicans that did not support this in the past are going to now move forward and support this. And potentially, they could have been swayed there, John, by the thought that the White House was obstructing some information and even potentially withholding some information that could change the course of this investigation, as Republicans clearly searching for a smoking gun here.
Yeah, I guess, the key thing you just said, Ken, it was searching. Like I said, I think this is a premature move, and I think that a lot of these moderate folks like I was, and facing a lot of this when I was in Congress, and you've got to stand strong. And your people back home will reward you. Your moderate voters will reward you. Your swing voters will reward you, but they don't reward you towing the party line. And if Rachel's right, and I think she is, there'll be a tremendous amount of pressure on these moderates in a few weeks to vote, or a few months to vote for impeachment. And that's when the rubber's going to hit the road. And if they don't stand strong, they're going to have a tough time come election time.
Certainly if they don't stand strong, but if that rubber hits the road here, as this has now been adopted, and so it does appear that this will be moving forward here. But I want to ask Valencia Johnson here, as you hear John Katko talk about some of the pressure that's going to be on these moderate Republicans moving forward, the pressure that they could potentially face here to vote for impeachment. What does that mean, Valencia, if nothing is unearthed here as they move forward with this investigation? You would have to imagine that they would find something in order to face that kind of pressure.
Yeah, it's interesting that we talk about how they need to fall in line with their party for re-election campaign dollars, but they actually needed to follow along with their integrity and their morals to represent those districts. And as they move forward along with their party, I actually have faith as a Democrat that this will help us gain those seats back, as well as have the majority come 2024. It is something that we are very confident in because, unfortunately, the Republican Party is focused on these sham investigations versus the issues that so many voters care about around the economy, around democracy, around abortion rights, around voting rights, so many issues, but they're spending all of their time right here. And that's exactly not why these voters elected them. They thought that they would be more moderate, that they would actually have a bit more integrity than some of their fellow colleagues. But this vote, I think, will harm them when it comes Election Day.
And as the numbers are coming in here to share with you, all 221 Republicans supported this resolution. Nobody defected. And Rachel Bate, I want to bring you back in here because there is a note here that there was some speculation that Ken Buck there out of Colorado potentially would be one of the holdouts. They could really only afford a couple, right? And that Ken Buck might be one of those holdouts. And nope, he wasn't. He voted to support. So again, all 221 Republicans supported this resolution, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good sign for them. I mean, it gives them momentum, and this is at a time when Republicans have been sort of warring against each other in the speakership battle of taking McCarthy out and then trying to find a successor. This is one of those moments that they kind of needed politically to actually unify behind something, regardless of, whether you think it's a good or bad idea to move forward with an impeachment inquiry. I do think one thing we should, mention here is what this is going to do for 2024. I mean, we could potentially have not only an impeachment of Joe Biden, in the middle of a contentious re-election for him, but a potentially Senate trial. If he is impeached in the House, the Senate has no choice but to have a high-profile impeachment trial at a time when Donald Trump is going to be facing trial himself just a few blocks down from the Capitol building here in federal court for his own charges. So the spectacle of that and this sort of dual shows that are going on, whether in the courtroom or on Capitol Hill, is really interesting. And I do think there's an open question right now about how this is going to impact Joe Biden's polling numbers in 2024. Could it potentially hurt him? Maybe. I mean, could it serve as a distraction from things he wants to talk about? He wants to talk about, what legislation he passed, abortion, things that help Democrats and help his reelect. this will obviously be a distraction and a way for Republicans to try to water down the criminal charges Donald Trump is facing in his own, trials around the country, to say, look, Joe Biden's being impeached. He's just as bad as Donald Trump. But on the other hand, there is a real possibility here that Republicans are overstepping politically and that it could blow back on them and actually help Joe Biden. We have seen that happen a lot of times when various parties have become too aggressive with oversight, and voters tend to think, look, they're just out on some sort of witch hunt. We saw this happen with Bill Clinton in the 1990s when he was impeached. His poll numbers actually skyrocketed, and he was doing a lot better after he got impeached. I'm not saying that necessarily will happen with Joe Biden, but there is that possibility here. If Democrats message this right, say that the whole process has been unfair, that there's no evidence that Biden committed high crimes and misdemeanors, we could actually see a boost for Joe Biden.
And we'll have to watch that play out. I want to bring in our ABC News political director, Rick Klein, to weigh in on some of that, what Rachel just said. And Rick, she's sort of highlighting some conversations that you and I had earlier. Again, as this was widely expected to pass, it did pass. Not a single Republican voted against it. I mean, first of all, Rick, for the first time, we're seeing House Republicans come together here on an issue. There it was.
Yeah, and I think it's important to narrow down what exactly they're united around. They're united around the idea of standing up for the House as an institution in this inquiry to empower House investigators to find out more information. And look, this is a tale as old as Washington, that when the other side seems to be hiding something, it becomes about the cover-up. It becomes about the institution and the offense that is taken by feeling like you're not being respected. And that is one thing that typically can unite a party. Where it gets more complicated is where you go from here. And look, it may be right that the train is leaving the station and that ultimately a vote to actually impeach Joe Biden is inevitable. But that will be a different vote than this one. This is a vote just to give more investigative tools to the House of Representatives, to empower them in potential court battles with the White House, with Hunter Biden and his legal team, on a day where Hunter Biden himself was quite defiant.
He certainly was, and we'll see how that plays out for him here in the coming days. Rick Klein, thank you so much, and thanks to all of our contributors and correspondents. And House Republicans leadership there also just now putting in a statement saying in part that we have witness testimony and bank records showing millions of dollars flowing to the Biden family from foreign adversaries. And they call this a very poignant moment here.